Louisville versus SMU Part 2 tonight. Will the Cardinals sweep the season series, or will the Mustangs get a much-needed resume booster?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome into this very special Locked On Podcast Network crossover episode. I'm the host of Locked On Louisville, Dalton Pence. Joined is Locked On SMU host Grayson Singleton. Grayson, what's going on, man?
Man, we are surviving. As you can tell, my hair looks a little bit crazy. Had to squeeze the gym in between recording this and got a 9-hour shift in my day job, man. But we're surviving. It's all good, bro. How we feeling?
We're feeling good. It's a high stakes matchup tonight. Louisville Cardinals versus SMU Mustangs down in Dallas. 7 o'clock tip off. We're going to have everything you need to know about this matchup. We're going to explore what's going on in the Pony Bros world. We're going to explore what's going on with Card Nation. And then we'll talk final predictions and storylines at the end. Thank you all so much for making both Locked On Louisville and Locked On SMU part of your daily commute and making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, but, well, putting in the work defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Grayson, SMU, Louisville squared off back on January 31st. Of course, the Cardinals got the best in that matchup with an 88-74 victory. Just kind of walk me through what these past couple of weeks since that game have been like from the SMU side of things. Because we see the win-loss record, but from a vibes perspective, what can you kind of tell me about what's been going on with SMU since late January?
Man, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows, to be quite honest with you. I mean, like this team has literally taken me through the ringer this year. Since that Louisville game, they're 2-2. They lost the 1-point game to NC State. Like, okay, NC State, we all know, is a solid team, not ranked, but is a solid team. It was a gettable one though, especially being at home. Took care of business against Pitt, took care of business against Notre Dame, and then just dropped an absolutely inexcusable one on Saturday to Syracuse. I mean, just bad. They led by 12 at two different junctures in the game. Once in the first half, which I'm okay excusing that because teams make runs in the first half and then a team will respond. Like, I'm cool with that. But they were up by 12 again in the second half and then just completely just lost all control. And I think back to that Louisville game, Dalton, and you remember when Louisville went on that run in the second half, that like 14-0 run, and SMU just could not battle back from it. That has started a trend with SMU, or has been part of a trend with SMU, is that the Mustangs just can't handle teams when they go on runs. Their offense gets panicky. They don't move. They stop moving the basketball. It turns ISO heavy and everything, and they just fall apart. And that's what happened against Syracuse. They just fell apart when Syracuse started to make a run, and they squandered the lead and whatnot. So that Louisville game, man, they have some blueprint as to how to beat SMU, and that is if we can string stop, score together, SMU becomes unraveled a little bit when teams go on runs.
So let's kind of piggyback off of that notion, Grayson, because I wanted to ask you now about like what went wrong in your eyes in that game. So outside of the run in the second half, like what can you pinpoint and say, you know what? This is the reason why SMU lost. This is why, even though they had a double-digit lead very early in this game, it was almost kind of the exact opposite late in the second half.
Man, you're gonna make my hair turn gray just talking about this again, man. It's the same thing. Is that when teams put the pressure on them, and you've watched enough basketball to have seen this before too. I know you have. But when teams start to put the pressure on a team, and then all of a sudden that team just gets tight, right? And like SMU has an identity that can win them games when they play decent enough defense, because let it be known, this is a bad defensive team. They are not good defensively at all. But when they play decent enough defense and then on their offense, the ball's moving around, player movement, they run their two-man games and whatnot, when there's offensive movement, this team is really good. They're still one of the better scoring teams, if not the best scoring team in the ACC. But when teams put the pressure on them, like Louisville did in the second half of their first meeting, they just go away from it. I mean, I don't understand it. They go away from it completely. It's one pass shot. It's, I'm going to get into my bag and try to do a bunch of ISO stuff. Like, it makes no sense. And Andy Enfield, the head coach, is culpable here too, because he calls timeouts. But what are you saying in these timeouts? Because it never works. It never fixes anything. I'm going to give you a stat, Dalton, from the Syracuse game. When Syracuse went on their run to erase the 12-point deficit in the second half, SMU only went to the free throw line 3 times. They missed 5 3-pointers in the midst of that run. So that tells you that they just got tight and just started launching stuff. Like, it makes no sense. No, I mean, Louisville has done this at times this season, but I mean, I just don't get it, man, because they completely abort mission and go away from what works for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like both of these teams like to shoot 3-pointers, right? So it seems like when the going gets tough, it's like they resort to just shooting even more challenging 3-pointers and hoping that breaks on the slump. And thankfully, we'll talk a little bit about in the next segment how I think the SMU game sort of kick-started this run for Louisville. But I look at bracketology, and we can't really use that as like as gospel, so to speak. But right now, SMU's just inside of the top 40. Most bracketology projections right now have things have SMU at like an 8 or a 9 seed.
Most of them
from what I've seen. Is there any worry looking at the rest of the way here? And I know that it's like Louisville, you have Miami. The West Coast trip could be a trip up type of trip for SMU because it's a trip up for a lot of teams, Louisville included. Is there any worry that like a couple more losses coming up here soon and SMU is kind of right in that bubble talk?
Man, it's funny you asked me this, because if you had asked me this on Friday, I would have said, nah, I think they'll be okay. At this point, I don't know, because yes, you've got a Miami team that I think can play really good basketball. Obviously, you've got the Louisville game tonight, but then don't overlook that Cal game, because Cal's a team that has been perpetually on the bubble for most of this year. So they're still playing for stuff. So, and a win over SMU would look pretty solid for the Golden Bears. So I wouldn't overlook that game. Obviously, Florida State, even though they're not good in terms of the win-loss, has been pesky for almost everybody that's played them. So it's one of those things where I should feel good about it, because SMU, I mean, you look at the schedule, SMU is better than Boston College. SMU is better than Cal and Stanford. Probably is better than Miami, and we know is better than Florida State, but they only beat Florida State by 3 the first time they played. So am I a little bit worried? Sure, because this team can't defend very well, but should I be? Probably not. I do feel confident that when it's all said and done, they'll probably end up a 9 seed.
So you look at this from a defensive standpoint, and I'm kind of interested to get your take on this with Mikel Brown Jr. just winning Naismith National Player of the Week, with Ryan Conwell seemingly turning things around. You talk about SMU's defense, and even though Conwell didn't shoot the ball well at all against SMU, Mikel didn't play bad. Now they look like they have improved to a different level. Just overall thoughts on SMU's 3-guard lineup having to go against a Louisville 3-guard lineup that was, well, I think playing much better than they did just a couple weeks ago.
And remember this, Mikel Brown came off the bench in that game against SMU because that was his first game when he got back from that injury. So keep that in mind too. What are my thoughts? Can you hold him under 90? like that's my thoughts with SMU, just because like Dalton, I cannot overstate how bad of a defensive team they are. Like they cannot.
Is it perimeter?
Defend.
Like what's the root of it? Is it because they are so bad defending the perimeter, or is it kind of like
okay? So no, it's literally everything. So they don't really have a bona fide rim protector. Now Samet Igotolu is fine in that role, but can he stay on the floor? He's had issues with foul trouble. And the backup center, Jaden Toombs, even though he's a good offensive player and he can get buckets, he is not a rim protector. They have problems with defensive rebounding. And it all starts really, Dalton, because they have struggled to keep teams out of the paint. They give up a lot of paint touches. They gave up so many paint touches against Syracuse that Andy Enfield was like, well, we should probably go zone so we can keep them out of the paint. Well, they went zone, and then Syracuse just got whatever they wanted. So, like that to me was the point where I just gave up defensively on this team. I don't think it's ever going to be good this year. So, to me, it's one of those things where can you contest shots and can you get rebounds when the other team misses? If they can do that, they've got a chance. If not, Louisville can hang 95 on SMU.
Well, Cardinals Mustangs 7 o'clock tip-off down in Dallas. When we come back, we're going to flip the script and allow Grayson to ask all the questions that he desires about the current state of the Louisville Cardinals. All that coming up on this very special Locked On Podcast Network crossover episode. Let's talk about our friends and the title sponsor of the show, Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show that, well, there's more to the score than what's on the screen. For the Cardinals and the Mustangs, I look at players like Javon Hadley and B.J. Edwards, who are really good when it comes to scoring the basketball, but their impacts spanned far beyond the box score. It's that extra work on and off the court. It's dialing in on every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, that I never quit mentality. Mazda puts that same passion into every model that they create. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. And while I have you, let's talk about all the great opportunities with our friends over at FanDuel. If you've ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person, well, FanDuel gives you that chance to turn the dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. I'm talking flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of the year after the NBA trade deadline, whether it's selecting a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It just adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I want to thank you all so much for making both Locked On Louisville and Locked On SMU your respective first listens every day. Don't forget to join the new Locked On Everydayer Club, because when you do, you'll get an ad-free audio feed for both of these shows, and you'll get to join the Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server. Just go to the respective show notes to learn more. Dalton, Pence, Locked On Louisville, Grayson, Singleton, Locked On SMU, previewing everything you need to know about this high-stakes ACC matchup on Tuesday night for the Cardinals against the SMU Mustangs. Grayson, I will turn the stage over to you. Ask away.
Well, it's interesting, and I want to start here because you said in that first segment that the game against Louisville the game against SMU, the first time these two teams met, was sort of a turning point for Louisville, and obviously the Cardinals have not lost since that game. I mean, now they've won 5 in a row, and it even extended 7 out of their last 8. What about that game sparked a turnaround like this?
Well, I think you have to kind of go back to that conversation, because one of the main talking points was that after that Duke loss, where they just got completely, humbled and decimated, destroyed, whatever verb you want to use, they got embarrassed. And they needed to look in the mirror, and they needed to do some soul searching. And it was a great opportunity to bounce back. But SMU was a team that if you played like you did against Duke, you're going to lose. And they started out the game against SMU the same way that they played against Duke, and they were trailing by double digits. Now, thankfully, they dug deep and started to find what was working, which was putting pressure on the ball, like you mentioned, taking the ball to the basket. And ultimately, you kind of just stay afloat until the second half, and then the Louisville run comes. And you saw for 20 minutes in that second half of, if Louisville plays this way, they're dangerous. Well, over the next 4-game stretch, and it's been a 5-game winning streak overall, Louisville's offense has been much less predictable. Yes, they've shot 3-point shots, but they've been much more willing to take the ball to the basket, and it has kept defenses off balance, and it's not allowed teams to just sell out to defend the three. So defensively, it's still just about effort and communication. A lot of it's just offensively because Louisville's offense was just not cohesive whatsoever. And that second half of the SMU game kind of served as the foundation for what has happened over the past couple games.
Okay, tell me about this whole thing with Mikel Brown, man. I mean, 45 burger on against NC State, man. He's been on it ever since he came back in the SMU game when he came off the bench. He has been on a heater of all heaters, man. Like, what's been going on with him? Where the way that he's shooting the basketball, the way that he's scoring the basketball, has just been at an otherworldly level, seemingly ever since the first meeting between these two.
Yeah, so he actually came back 2 games prior to that. He came back against Virginia Tech.
Oh yeah, that's
played
right.
well. He played well, not bad at all. Actually, pretty good. But against Duke, he just couldn't buy a bucket. Louisville couldn't really buy a bucket. They weren't playing well at all. SMU kind of started this run, and it's been inconsistency over the whole season. There are games where he'll score 20, look really good, scoring the basketball, facilitating. But there's other games where he'll score less than 10. He's trying to force his shots, taking some ill-advised shots and just not making them. And, you know, it's unfortunate. But I think you're seeing over these past couple of games, like him reaching that potential. Because all Louisville fans have known that this is possible. Because when you watched him in high school against this really good freshman class, which could end up being the best NBA draft class since like 2003, what he did last spring was pretty notable against some of his other teammates and stuff like that. But the guy is just, he's find his shot. He's getting to the basket, understanding that, hey, when I'm aggressive, when I take the ball to the rim at 6'5" and as athletic as I am, not many players can check me one-on-one. His scoring is a great aspect of it, but to kind of conclude this all, I'll say that the reason why he's playing so good is because of the gravity that he commands. Mm-hmm. He's such a good passer. His court vision is off the charts, and he makes everyone around him better. So it's like, you can focus on Mikel, but Mikel gets everybody involved. And you're not just seeing him show out. I mean, Ryan Conwell had 31 against NC State in that same game, and they almost beat NC State by themselves. So last week was one of those, let me just go full on scorched earth, Mikel. Hopefully he can selfishly score over 25 tonight against SMU.
Yeah, I mean, he'll have the opportunity to do it. Now, I'm interested to see how SMU is going to match up with him. Do they put their best perimeter defender, B.J. Edwards, on him? Maybe Jerron Pierre gets a chance at him. I'm interested to see what the plan is going to be for slowing him down. Now, are there still, we know Louisville's playing really good ball. Again, they've won 7 of their last 8. Is there anything that has not been as great over this last stretch of games where they've really resurrected their season? And that might be a stretch.
I mean, it hasn't been perfect, right? I mean, it took some clutch play down the stretch against Wake Forest to pull that off. Notre Dame, they trailed by almost double digits early on in that game. NC State was pretty good from the start. Baylor, there was a stretch where they didn't play the greatest. I think the thing with Louisville is that when they're at their best, they can contend with almost anybody. But it seems like there's a part in every game to where, and the duration of this period changes every game, but there's times where they revert back to shooting ill-advised threes early in the shot clock. There are times where they give up more offensive rebounds than you'd like. They don't play great defense, and I mean, they kind of revert back to old ways. So I don't think that there's one thing that they're doing particularly worse than what they had been before this stretch, but the next step in trying to reach the ceiling that this team can on paper is just consistency. If they play more like NC State in the second half against Baylor, they're going to be a really good team. If they play the second half defensively like they did against Wake Forest, they're going to struggle. So it's kind of just depending on when that stretch comes during the game where they struggle and how long of a stretch that is.
Yeah, that's similar to SMU as well. It's just like, can you avoid the extended stretches of poor play and allowing a team to really pull away from you like that. Okay, so Sananda Fru, I've listened to some of your stuff, and you've been really high on Sananda Fru has, in a way, sort of given Louisville that extra punch. I'll phrase it that way. How dangerous is he?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Sananda, it's kind of, I hate to say Jekyll and Hyde, but that's kind of the way it is. Sometimes he plays out of this world, and sometimes it's like, man, he just didn't have a good game at all, and it seems like there's almost no in between. You look at the SMU game, he played 18 minutes and only scored 3 points. He wasn't really a huge factor in the game. It was more Ali Khalifa and Vangelis Zugris. And I'd have to go back and look, but I think maybe also Case and Pryor as well, but I'd have to go back and look at that. Because that was about the time where he started to play much better. But anyways, Sananda is a player that he's going to give you good interior defense. He's a solid rim runner, but sometimes the opportunities just don't arise, or they don't rise up for him, I should clarify, because a lot of it is so very much backcourt dominated, and then you have guys like Javon Hadley in the front court. Sananda just doesn't have much offense that's run for him outside of a couple lob plays or opportunistic passes where he's able to kind of drop down from the dunker spot. So yeah, he's got everything you want in a starting ACC center. The issue is you just never know how good of a game he's going to have because they just don't run a lot of offense for him.
Okay.
And that's kind of the full extent though. He's got the talent. I think that he's getting better against better interior players that he's going up against, which hasn't always been the case this season. So yeah, it's been a couple games since he's had a good game, so I think he's due, unfortunately, for SMU fans.
Yeah, and the reason I bring him up, and I know the people listening on your side are going to be like, well, why is Grayson bringing him up? The reason I'm bringing him up is because he's averaging 11 a night over the last 4 games, and to go along with 6 rebounds. And I look at him, and I look at his athleticism, and I think, boy, this is a bad matchup for SMU.
You want to hear a fun stat real quick? Not to cut you off, but Sananda
no. What you got?
14 of his last 14 field goal attempts. He was 4 of 4 last game, 3 of 3 against NC State, and 7 of 7 against Wake. So if he gets looks, usually they're pretty high percentage looks.
Yeah, and that's why I bring that up, is because SMU's defense on the interior is not that great, and I mentioned in that first segment, their rebounding is also suspect as well. And I look at a guy who's long and who's athletic, and I look at that and say, I don't like this. I don't love this matchup for SMU from that standpoint. That's why I bring him up.
Understood. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if he plays more of a role in the second matchup than he did the first one, because he didn't really seem like he was a huge factor at all. So
no, you're right. You're right about that, man. That's all I got for you.
Well, when we come back, we're going to get down to the main thing that you all want to know, and that is who wins this game. What are the main storylines? All that and more coming up on this special Locked On Podcast Network crossover episode. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, the one position you have to fill still sitting open. You understand the pressure. When the pressure's on, you need to find the right hire. Well, this is a job for sponsored jobs, because Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for with the skills, experience, location, so on and so forth. So you're not just hoping for the right candidate to stumble across your post. Here's the main stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates, and check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our shows by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? Well, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Let's wrap things up on this special Locked On Podcast Network crossover episode between Locked On Louisville and Locked On SMU. He is Grayson Singleton. I am Dalton Pence. One of our title sponsors of the show, FanDuel, currently has Louisville as a 4.5-point favorite over SMU tonight. Grayson, overall thoughts on that line specifically?
I think it's a good line. I'll tell you what, I think it's a good line. And if you're Louisville, you got to be feeling really good about this because you're a 4.5-point favorite on the road as well. Yeah. If you're SMU, you're looking at this from the perspective of, man, we're kind of disrespected here, but they've worked themselves into a position where it doesn't look all that great. So I think for SMU, they're going to need to prove some people wrong. And ultimately, for the Mustangs, this is a must-win game because this is the last game on their schedule that's going to look that impressive. Now, I think Cal could be a quad one opportunity because that's on the road. So that margin for quad one is much wider when you're going on the road. But they got to win this. They have got to win it. Otherwise, the rest of their resume until the ACC tournament just doesn't have that many options on it in terms of looking impressive going down the stretch.
I think for Louisville, it's a little bit it's the same like merit behind the argument because you're looking to build a resume, but it's a different approach because Louisville, they're sitting here and they are top 15 in the net, but you look at the bracketology and that's not gospel, but they don't really have that signature victory, and beating SMU on the road is not going to give it to them. So really what they have to do is that they have to win as many games as possible down the stretch. They've got 4 quad one opportunities in their final 6 games. The issue is that you go up against Carolina and Caleb Wilson's probably not going to play. So if you were to win that game, that would lose its shine. Clemson, if you win that game, good victory, but not like that marquee victory that's like, oh my gosh, look who Louisville just beat. And then you've got at Miami, who's sort of in that same conversation. So I think for the Cardinals, it's a matter of you have to sort of compensate for the lack of quality wins by just stockpiling quad one wins. And this is a complete quad one opportunity. Would be one of Louisville's best wins, truthfully. I mean, I think SMU still is a very good team, even though they've kind of been up and down. It would look good on the resume. But for the Cardinals, it's a matter of, okay, if you want to be a top 4 seed in a regional, you just have to stockpile wins heading into the ACC tournament and hope you can take down a Duke or a Virginia or someone along those lines. So, Grayson, let's say hypothetically SMU wins this game. What would you theoretically point to without knowing anything other than the final score? What would you say went right for SMU?
Well, they defended the perimeter better, and they put more ball pressure on the guards. Too many times they allow guards to just operate, and there's not a lot of real ball pressure on the ball handlers, and that is, to me, step one as to why SMU has given up so many paint touches this season as a whole. So I think it would start there. I think it would also start with composure because Louisville's just too good of a team to where they're going to go on runs. Like Louisville's going to go on a run at some point. Mikel Brown will get hot. Isaac McNeely will hit a couple of threes or what have you. Hell, Ali Khalifa might do some weird stuff and bank in a 3. But you can't lose your composure when that happens. So to me, if they win this game, it's because they defended on the ball handlers a lot better than they have this season, and they were able to maintain their level of discipline and maintain their identity even while another team went on a scoring burst.
On the flip side, I think for Louisville, it's kind of the same thing. We saw when SMU got hot in that first matchup, they were like 5 of 6 from 3 in the first 5 minutes of the game. They opened up a 10-point lead, and then Louisville's defense improved. They cleaned things up a little bit. They were more effective on their closeouts, and SMU made 3 more three-pointers the rest of the way. So I think for this game, which both teams are very similar, they play fast, they score a lot of points, their production primarily comes from their backcourt. I think that Louisville has to do what theoretically gives them their best advantage, and that is have the better backcourt. That is where their advantage lies against 98% of the teams in college basketball, is that Mikel Brown and Ryan Conwell, Isaac McNeely have to go out there and prove it, right? Because they're going up against a very formidable opponent who has 3 really good guards as well. So I think that a lot of that is a matter of defending well and also just kind of winning the battle between the backcourt. But we'll end things here, Grayson. Give me a final score prediction.
Well, it's hard for me to pick SMU in all reason right now. So I do think it won't be a 14-pointer like it was in the first go round between these two, but I'm gonna go Louisville. I'm gonna go Louisville 87-81, somewhere along those lines.
That's very, very close to mine. I had Louisville 88, SMU 81. So it literally like 1 point. I think it's going to be high scoring. It's one of those matchups where they play very similarly.
No doubt.
It's going to be fun TV. I know that there's some other good games tonight, but ultimately this is vintage ACC ball. And what more could you ask for than Louisville and SMU down in Dallas? Of course, we will have all the coverage after this game on both the Locked On Louisville and the Locked On SMU channels. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for making both of our shows your first listen of the day, respectively, and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you back here coming up soon.